everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, April 24th, 2023. If you have not yet gotten subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. I would appreciate it, and that allows us to stay in closer conversation together, to be part of a community thinking about what really matters and doing so with nuance. Also, if you have not gotten over to my website, jaaronsimmons.com, please do and get signed up for my monthly newsletter. A lot of exclusive content that comes out there, and I'd love to make sure that you get to see it. All right, today I want to talk about something that came up in one of my recent philosophy classes, and that's the distinction between an idea and ideology. In order to think about this distinction, I actually think we can learn quite a bit from Karl Marx, who differentiates these in very helpful ways. Now, in order to understand this, I have to give you a little bit of a broad account of Marxist thought as it concerns these two notions. Imagine that you have a house being built. Well, when you build houses, I used to work construction, you build first by laying a foundation. And then on that foundation, you build up the walls, and on top of the walls, you ultimately attach a roof. Now, this normal way of doing things makes a lot of sense, and Marx suggests that the same is true relative to how we live in the world. The foundation upon which we build our house, as it were, is what he calls nature and work. In other words, it's the way things are at their most basic given the human condition. We are the kinds of beings who have to work, have to put in labor, effort, in order to maintain our existence. If we're hungry, we have to grow some apples. If we are thirsty, we have to find a river. In order to recognize the foundation as nature and work, what this means is that we start with what is given. What the foundation is that we receive as simply part of our basic human identity. Then we start getting creative. The walls of this Marxist house are what he describes as economic intercourse. In other words, it's the exchange functions that we do in order to create society. I grow some apples, you found a river, so maybe we'll trade apples for some water. In order to think about this in complicated ways, we can talk about different economic structures. So Marx describes different stages by which human history has progressed with different walls of its basic house. Feudalism, capitalism, socialism, and ultimately communism is the Marxist progression. Now, you might take issue with that, and that's fine. I'm not here today, at least, to debate his economic theory, but simply to show you the way in which our economic relationships and the historical manifestations under which those then play out are built upon this assumption of who we are as physical beings needing to work in order to sustain our life. At the top of this house, with our foundation of nature and work, our walls of economic intercourse understood again in different historical ways, we apply the roof. And this is the roof of ideas. The idea here is that the foundation gives rise to different ways of then constructing the walls, and the different walls, the different historical ways we've built them, give rise to different types of roofs, different ideas. So for example, in feudalism, maybe we need the divine right of kings as an idea to reinforce the obviousness and the logic of that economic structure, that economic relationship. In capitalism, maybe we need the idea of work hard, you can get there, right? You can do anything, the American dream. These sorts of ideas emerge as a result of a particular manifestation of American capitalistic social life. We can even think about this more broadly. What about life, liberty, and property? The French Revolution was based on these big ideas. But of course, those ideas, according to this Marxist theory, emerge from the walls being structured in a particular way. Now, how is it that we transition between different houses? How do we move from one set of walls to a different set of walls with different roofs and different ideas being produced because of those relationships? Marx describes that as the process of revolution. Now, maybe we'll do another video talking about how revolution occurs and what motivates it. But for this video, all we need to understand is that ideas are produced by the economic structure in which we find ourselves as a result of the human condition and our embodied realities that then give rise to, build up those economic manifestations. So what is ideology as different from the ideas produced by these economic structures? Well, take that house that Marx has described and flip it upside down. He calls this the camera obscura. It's where we invert what we're seeing and begin to assume that it's actually built upside down. On this model, the ideas would be the foundation. The economic structure, again, would be the walls. And then our way of making sense of ourselves, our basic understanding of our embodied existence, ends up being the roof. It's what we then get to as a result of these foundational ideas, economic contingencies, and then the produced narrative of self-identity and human value. Marx suggests that this inverted house, the fact that we have it upside down, that is ideology. Ideology is that we confuse our ideas for foundational principles motivating our action, rather than understanding our ideas as products of the network and context of different power structures and historical realities that shape our thinking. That difference between ideas as a product and ideology as flipping the ideas upside down as foundational, that's key. What does this then mean? Well, it means that ideology is a way of taking for granted, as obvious, as necessary, those things that are actually contingent products of social structures, social life. Ideology is not an idea. Ideology is an approach to ideas as non-produced. They are given, they are there, they are found objects that propel us forward. And that ideological commitment blinds us then to the contingency with which we hold our ideas in the first place. Now, this doesn't mean that our ideas are false, doesn't mean that they're bad, doesn't mean that they're not even true. All that it means is we've got to be aware of the workings of ideology, the inversion, in order to take seriously what's at stake in thinking through the ideas that we hold. How have we come to hold them? Could they be thought differently? What if we put question marks where everybody else puts periods? That distinction between the contingency of ideas and the inverted relationship to them, such that we forget ideas as products and begin to relate to them as assumptions. That ideological structure is why Marx invites us to be self-aware, to develop humility, to become critical, not in the sense of tearing down and destroying systems, but being aware that they could be done differently. That, I think, is a deeply productive and valuable lesson we can take from Marx. All right, I'll see you next time, unless a piano falls on our head.